Hi, my name is Joe Myers and welcome back to my garage. If you haven't watched my previous video, I would encourage you to go back and do that. But this week we're going to be addressing what I call the certification problem in our series of what does it take to fix a car. Now, I've had a lot of people talk to me about certifications across the years. And for those of you that do not know me, I was the Technician Development Manager for Toyota Motor North America. And I have talked to everyone from those who strongly support a third-party certification to those who are adamantly opposed to it. And when it comes to fixing a car, I've heard people say, well, you don't have to be certified in order to fix a car. And you know what? They're right. You don't have to be. But this week, what I want to do is break down for you the reason for certifications, what type of certifications are important, what types of certifications should a technician pursue. So when we start looking at the certification problem, I want to break it down into 5 categories. And then what I'm going to do is keep the video very short. The videos will probably be about 5 minutes in length. That way you can watch them at your leisure. You can comment on the specific topics and subjects that we'll be talking about over the next few days. So when I look at the certification problem, the first problem that stands out to me is that most customers taking their vehicle in to be repaired today at dealerships or independent repair shops are having them repaired, sometimes diagnosed, and many times the maintenance is being done by someone who has no third-party certification. This is a problem. Would you think about going to a hospital that hires nurses that are not certified? Would you think about getting on an airplane and flying across the country with a pilot that's not certified? I think we know the answer to that, and it's an obvious no. But yet we're taking our vehicles to repair shops that are having people work on them that sometimes has very little training and has no certification. So how do we know that they did the brake job correctly? How do we know that they're changing the oil correctly or rotating the tires or torquing the lug nuts correctly? And I have to say that we really don't, especially if they're not certified and they're not following a process. So that's the first problem. The next problem that we see is there's no validation process being followed. So what do I mean by that? So just because a technician is certified, it does not mean that they do the job correctly every time. However, in a skills-based certification that requires 100% in order to pass, we do know that the technician is able to follow a process. Now, it's up to the dealer and it's up to the individual technician to discipline themselves to make sure that they do follow proper processes and procedures. Did you know that every manufacturer publishes processes and procedures for each repair activity that takes place on your vehicle? The problem that we encounter is a lot of times those processes are not being followed. And that's the reason for comebacks, a low fix-it-right the first time score, and dissatisfied customers. The next problem that we're going to address is that there are no clear pathways to the current certification standards. Now, there are those out there that say that I'm adamantly opposed to ASE. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And I'm actually going to be addressing where does ASE fit in the equation. So regardless of which side of the fence you're on, I'll weigh in on this, and I think I have quite a bit to share, especially having worked in the education industry quite extensively, and I can share why technicians struggle. That brings up the next topic. there is a focus on studying to pass the current certifications rather than enhancing skill and craft. That's a problem. I can know a lot about a topic, but that doesn't mean that I'm able to perform a specific skill or task. Another example, I may know a whole lot about flying, and I may know procedurally what I need to do to take off and land a Boeing 737. But if I haven't been properly trained and spent time in the cockpit of that plane and actually learned the skill, learned the muscle memory, then I don't think you as a passenger would want to fly with me just because I cognitively knew what I was doing. Then the last thing that we're going to be addressing is something that really concerns me, and that is the desire for, whether it's a manufacturer or a shop, a dealership, or even a technician, to expedite the current certification track. That is typically focused on two things. One, a certification typically allows a technician to make more money. For a manufacturer, that may be the gateway, or the gatekeeper rather, to preventing someone that's not certified from doing a warranty or a campaign or a recall. So there's a problem with expediting certification. We may get someone to a point where they can pass a test, but it doesn't mean that they have had the time to perfect their skill, so that for you as a customer, you as a dealership owner, you as a technician, you're all protected because the person is doing it correctly. So we're going to be covering things such as certificate versus certification. What does it even mean? What does it mean to you as a technician? What does it mean to you as a customer? And most importantly, in some cases, what does it mean to you as a shop owner? And then we're going to look at OE certifications versus third party. Why do we need both? Or do we need both? And then we're going to look at cognitive versus hands-on and why technicians struggle. One of the things I'm going to address in the segment where I cover why technicians struggle is something that was brought up to me by an academic dean at a college about 5 years ago. And I was really put on the defensive at first. But the more that I have unpackaged what she shared with me, the more that I realize she was correct. What she said is our current certification system is punitive to most technicians. I'll be breaking that down for you. And then, how do we change this? Do we need to completely start over? Do we need another program? What do we do? Where do we go from here? Because right now, out of the nearly 1 million technicians we have in the United States, a very low percentage overall are certified by a third party. So where do we go from here? How do we change this? I want to thank you for taking the time to watch the video. If there are things that you would like for me to specifically address, please put those comments in the comment section here on YouTube. You can reach out to me directly. You can contact me through my website. It's rfp-workplaceprinciples.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and thanks again for watching.